Hey everyone, and welcome back to Tarik Talk. I'm your host, Tarik Talk. Right now, I'm in Berlin, and today I want to share a moment from one of the most powerful and grounding museum visits I've had while being here. I recently spent time at the Altes Museum, and standing in front of this building alone already feels like stepping into history. Berlin is a city where the past and present constantly exist side by side, and the Altes Museum captures that feeling perfectly. It doesn't shout for attention. It stands with confidence, history, and quiet authority. The first thing that really struck me was the architecture, the long row of columns, the symmetry, the openness of the structure. It feels almost ceremonial. Walking up those steps, you don't feel rushed. You feel invited to slow down, to prepare yourself for what's inside. The building itself sets the tone before you even enter. Once inside, the atmosphere shifts. The noise of the city fades, and suddenly you're surrounded by centuries of human thought, creativity, and expression. The Altes Museum is dedicated largely to classical antiquities, Greek and Roman art, sculpture, and objects. But what makes it special is how present everything feels. This isn't history locked behind glass. It feels alive. As I moved through the galleries, I was struck by how focused the experience is. There's no overload, no chaos, just space to observe. Sculptures are given room to breathe. You can walk around them, see them from multiple angles, and really take in the details, the posture, the facial expressions, the tension in the body. What stood out to me most was how human everything felt. These works are ancient, but they don't feel distant. You see faces that express pride, vulnerability, confidence, contemplation. You see bodies frozen mid-movement, captured with such precision that they still communicate emotion thousands of years later. There's something grounding about being surrounded by art that has survived so much. Empires rising and falling, wars, political shifts, entire civilizations changing. And yet, these objects remain, quietly reminding us that humans have always been thinking about beauty, power, identity, and meaning. One of my favorite parts of the museum was simply wandering without a plan, letting myself move from room to room, guided by curiosity rather than a checklist. Some pieces immediately draw you in, while others slowly reveal themselves the longer you stand there. The museum rewards patience. I also appreciated how calm the space felt. Visitors weren't rushing. People were actually looking, really looking, sitting on benches, circling sculptures, reading inscriptions. There was a shared respect for the space, and that made the experience even more meaningful. The Altes Museum doesn't overwhelm you with explanation. It gives you just enough context to understand what you're seeing, but it leaves room for personal interpretation. You're not told what to feel. You're allowed to arrive at it yourself. And that's something I value deeply when visiting museums. Being in Berlin adds another layer to the experience. This is a city that has faced immense destruction and transformation, and yet here you are, standing among objects that speak to continuity. It reminds you that culture doesn't disappear. It adapts, survives, and carries memory forward. At one point, I found myself thinking about time, about how brief our individual lives are compared to the lifespan of these works. And instead of feeling small, it felt comforting, like being part of a much longer conversation that stretches across generations. The museum also encourages a kind of inward reflection. You're not just learning about ancient civilizations, you're thinking about your own, about what we choose to preserve, what we value, and what future generations might one day look back on. When I eventually stepped back outside, the light felt different. Berlin felt sharper, more textured. That's something I always notice after a powerful museum visit. Your eyes adjust, your awareness expands just a little bit. The Altes Museum isn't flashy. It doesn't rely on spectacle. Its power comes from stillness, from presence, from allowing history to speak without interruption. And in a world that moves fast, that kind of space feels incredibly necessary. If you find yourself in Berlin, I really recommend taking the time to visit. Not as a tourist stop, but as a pause. Give yourself space to slow down, to observe, and to connect with something older than all of us. That's it for today. Thank you for spending this time with me here in Berlin and for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with someone who loves art and history, and stay tuned for more reflections from cities and cultural spaces around the world. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and I'll talk to you soon. A new season is here, and I've got some incredible guests I can't wait to share with you. I'll also be dropping an art guide featuring some of my favorite galleries, museums, art fairs, and artists you should definitely check out. All episodes are now streaming visually on YouTube and Instagram, and audibly on Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all major streaming platforms. If you haven't already, make sure to follow and subscribe for more art adventures. Thank you to everyone who supported the podcast and to everyone listening in over 160 countries worldwide. To my new listeners and my day ones, I love you. Thank you for being part of this journey through art. Have a guest you think I should interview next? Drop their name in the comments. With hundreds of episodes recorded live in over 10 countries, catch up on previous guests while you wait for the new season to drop. Stay tuned. Ciao.